provide you with the lowest per GB rates, night or day. SLT 4G, driving you ever forward.
Making headlines at first at 9. Cabinet bolstered. 2 more cabinet ministers along with the state minister take oath. Can there be a floor vote? Speaker Karu Jayasuriya intends to facilitate a chance to show the majority in Parliament on the 14th. Falling in line. Inspector General of Police insists that Sri Lanka Police will only heed instructions of the President. Media reports rubbished. The central bank rejects money printing claims. The acid test. Democrats take control of the US House of Representatives in the midterm elections. Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamagit Naik. Now let's start you off with your local stories. 2 cabinet ministers and a state minister were appointed by President Maithripala Sirisena today. Accordingly, Chamal Rajapaksa is the Minister of Health, Nutrition and Indigenous Medicine. The position of Minister of Highways and Road Development was given to SB Dissanayaka. In the meantime, Pavitra Wanyarachchi was sworn in as the State Minister of Petroleum Resources Development. Inspector General of Police Pujit Jayasundara today responded to the letter sent by former Minister of Law and Order Ranjit Bandhu Bandara calling for boosted security for former ministers and the Prime Minister. In his letter, MP Manduma Bandara yesterday insisted that the UNP-led government is still in power, while instructing the IGP to recognise the government which existed prior to the recent regime change. Convening a media briefing, the IGP, however, illustrated that Sri Lanka Police will only work in accordance with the orders and instructions given by none other than the Executive President of Sri Lanka. Former Minister of Law and Order Ranjit Manduma Bandara sent a letter to Inspector General of Police Pujit Jayasundara yesterday instructing him to adhere to all security practices which prevailed under the previous government. Parliamentarian Manduma Bandara called on the IGP to consider the Prime Minister and ministers of the previous regime as members of a legitimate government and they be given necessary security. Several parliamentarians representing the UNP handed over the particular letter to the police headquarters yesterday. We are still the governing body in the country. Ranjit Manduma Bandara is still the Minister of Law and Order, with the Sri Lanka Police falling under his purview. He made this statement in accordance with the Speaker's letter to the President yesterday. IGP Pujit Jayasundara, however, today made it clear that Sri Lanka Police will only work in accordance with orders and instructions of the President. Yesterday, that is the 6th of November in 2018, parliamentarians Dayagamage, Nalin Bandara and Palitha Tewaraperuma came to the police headquarters with a letter from parliamentarian Ranjit Manduma Bandara and instructed that security measures for former ministers be deployed just as it was before the interim government came to power. As per the IGP circular, the required number of security personnel are already deployed for these parliamentarians. So I cannot work in accordance with instructions of this letter. President Maithripala Sirisena has given me special instructions as the Executive President of the country. All law enforcement institutions, including Sri Lanka Police, are under his purview. The Ministry of Law and Order is also under the purview of Executive President of Sri Lanka, Maithripala Sirisena. As the Sri Lanka Police, we only work in accordance with the President's orders and instructions.
අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ නිශ්චිත නියෝග සහ උපදෙස් මත පමණයි.
What is your reaction to the Speaker's position that whatever that happened on the 26th?
It is not relevant here.
No, somebody has written a letter to you on a letterhead he is not supposed to use. So what action would you take?
No comments.
19 ආණ්ඩුව ව්‍යවස්ථාව යටතේ තියෙන්නේ නීතිය සාමය ජනාධිපතිවරයා යටතේ තියන්න බෑ කියලා තමයි ඊයේ ඔවුන් මේ නිවේදනය නිකුත් කළේ. එතකොට
ඒක මට අදාළ නැහැ.
In the meantime, views were expressed at the cabinet media briefing today regarding the letter in question sent by the former Minister of Law and Order. It is regrettable that former Minister Ranjit Manduma Bandara would send such a letter with a letterhead containing an official emblem. I don't have to emphasize how unimportant its contents are because this is illegal. Even the Speaker says that he works in accordance with the Gazette, so this means that parliamentarian Ranjit Manduma Bandara might have been pressured into this.
ඉතින් මෙතන මේ වැරදි මතයක්
He has sent this letter as an act of sabotage to give rise to unwarranted views within society. We completely reject this letter and urge him not to repeat this. If they really want to, come to the parliament and prove the majority.
ඇවිල්ලා බහුතරය පෙන්වන්න.
ඔබතුමාලා කියන ඔබතුමාලා තමයි නිල රජය කියලා. එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ ඉන්න අය කියනවා ඒ කට්ටිය තමයි නිල රජය කියලා. එතකොට ඇයි ඔබතුමාලා නීත්‍ය අනුකූල පියවරක් ගන්න නැත්නම් ඔබතුමාලා නිල රජය නා?
දැන් ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ
We don't want to give attention to such an unofficial letter. This letter will be relevant to government officials, but all of them, including the staff in parliament, have already accepted us. What else is there to talk about?
ඉතින් ඊට එහා මොකක්ද කතාව?
Speaker Karu Jayasuriya states that an environment must be facilitated in Parliament to express and establish the majority when it convenes on the 14th. Releasing a media communique after a party leaders meeting today, the Speaker said standing orders will be suspended on the 14th following regular proceedings in Parliament. Speaker of Parliament Karu Jayasuriya today issued a communique saying that an unofficial meeting was held at the Speaker's office this afternoon with the participation of the representatives of political parties to discuss the agenda of the Parliament on the 14th, the date it is to be convened. He says that the stance of the government on the agenda was that Parliament should be postponed after the General Secretary of Parliament reads out the Gazette to summon Parliament. It further says that the other faction which opposes this idea is of the view that an opportunity should be given to prove the majority in Parliament. Eventually, it says that after considering views of both factions, the Speaker decided that standing orders should be suspended and an opportunity must be granted to express majority in a bid to establish a stable government. In the meantime, before the Speaker made the announcement of a possible floor vote on the 14th, the government called for the Speaker's cooperation when the Parliament convenes next.
අවශ්‍ය නම්බර්ස් දැන් මේ රජයට තියනවාද?
බොහොම පැහැදිලි
We have clearly stated that we do.
වෙලා තියෙනවා.
ඉතින් මේ ගණන් හදලා පෙන්නනවා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා දැනට 118ක් තියෙනවා කියලා.
ඔය ගණන් කියාපු අයම
You know, those who did that math in the morning was sworn in before the president in the evening. Therefore, none of the numbers are correct.
සියක් වළංගුවට ඇත.
නෑ ඔබතුමන්ලා බහුතරයක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒක පෙන්නුවා නම් මේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ මේ.
බොහොම පැහැදිලි
The president has clearly stated through a gazette to convene the parliament on the 14th.
ගණවන්න.
ඔබතුමා කියන 14 වෙනිදාත් ඔබතුමන්ලා පෙන්වන්නේ නැහැ කියලා.
නෑ එතුමා
That's not what he meant. It's them who have the responsibility to show what they have.
ඉන්න අයට.
ජනාධිපතිතුමා සඳහන් කළා පැවති රජයේ තීන්දුව తీරන ගත්තේ සමනල් රෑනක් කියලා.
අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමා
The president did not make that reference targeting a certain section of society.
ඉලක්ක කරගෙන කරපු දෙයක් නෙවෙයි.
සමනලයා කියන හරි අහිංසක සතෙක් නේ.
කතානායකවරයා පසුගියද අනිවේදනයක් කරන නව පාර්ශවයට හිමි බහුතරය පෙන්වීමට හැකිවන තුරු පෙර පැවති තත්ත්වය පිළිගැනීමට මා බැඳී සිටිනවා කියලා.
අපි කතානායකතුමාට කියනවා
We request the Speaker to assist in the situation without looking at this from a political angle or being partial while respecting the Constitution when the Parliament convenes.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ආරම්භ කරන අවස්ථාවේදී
මනුෂ්‍යනායකකර මන්ත්‍රීවරයා කියනවා මේ එතුමා අයින් වෙන්නේ මේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදය සහ ව්‍යවස්ථානුකූලව මේ සිදුවෙන සිද්ධාමේ බැලුවාම රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා පාර්ශවය කියන කාරණා හරි වගේ කියන කතාවක්.
එතුමා දෙවරුන් දුන්නේ දවස් කීයකටද පෙරද?
Didn't he know that when he was sworn in? He can't be that ill-educated. It is clear on what basis those decisions were taken.
ඒ තීන්දුව ගත්ත එක.
Now, parliamentarians representing the Tamil National Alliance and the Tamil Progressive Alliance, which are part of the United National Front, met President Maithripala Sirisena and held discussions today. In the meantime, Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Sajith Premadasa, also expressed his views on the country's prevailing political situation and especially on the rumours or claims that he was offered the premiership. The Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Sajith Premadasa, addressed a media briefing held at the Temple Trees today, and he was questioned on the alleged invitations he received to take over the premiership. When my party already has a leader, my intention was not to have titles, but to strengthen the development of the country by creating coexistence between the two leaders. Should leaders with power clash with their leaders or eradicate poverty? Most have forgotten how to work for the country in line with an agenda. Several things were done with the knowledge of the leader of my party, Ranil Wickremesinghe. I will not discuss how and when they were done. In the meantime, the Tamil Progressive Alliance met with President Maithripala Sirisena upon an invitation extended by him. Later, speaking to media, its leader, MP Mano Ganeshan, said that they rejected an invitation by the President to join the government. The President gave us three options. The first one was to join the government and give support. If that's not possible, he then asked to refrain from voting in Parliament. The third option was to refrain from backing Ranil Wickremesinghe as Prime Minister if he wins the vote in Parliament. I told no to the first two options and said we will decide as to who will be appointed as Prime Minister. In the meantime, parliamentarians of the Tamil National Alliance joined a meeting with the President at the Presidential Secretariat. Issuing a communique, they said that the President was told the decisions taken by the TNA cannot be reversed and that it will stand by them. The TNA has communicated to the head of state that it would extend its fullest support to the President with regards to any future measures taken by him to stabilise the political situation in the country with the cooperation of all political parties. We didn't take any decision. We told our stance and the President told his. In such a backdrop, the United National Party organised a demonstration in Kegel today in protest of the appointment of a new Premier. They took over the government saying that they have the majority. If they had the majority, they could have convened the Parliament the next day. Why was it prorogued? The Speaker has rejected the gazette issued by the President because we have the majority. Now, revisiting speculation surrounding Parliament, UPFA parliamentarian Lakshman Yapabe is of the view that there won't be any room for a floor vote to show the majority in Parliament when the House convenes on the 14th. The parliamentarian made the insistence while addressing a media briefing held at the Prime Minister's office today. The President has summoned the Parliament on the 14th of November. The agenda on that day only includes presenting the President's policy statement to the House. Nothing of the sort of taking a majority vote or presenting a no-confidence motion against the Prime Minister is happening on the 14th. The President and the Prime Minister met with the Chairman of the Elections Commission and instructed to hold the Provincial Council election soon. If it takes time to hold the election with the new electoral system, the government will go ahead with the preferential voting system for only this time. We can't do anything if the JVP decides to stand with the UNP, claiming that all this is against the Constitution. But that will mark the end of the JVP. We can go for an election if all parliamentarians agree to do so. There are methods to do this and they will take place accordingly. In the meantime, journalists inquired from the Chairman of the Election Commission, Mahinda Deshapriya, regarding the upcoming Provincial Council election. We only have to go ahead with the Provincial Council election and not any other type of election. Now, various events were held to commemorate well-known politician and former Deputy Speaker late D.A. Rajpaksha today as well. The 51st commemoration of well-known politician and former Deputy Speaker of Parliament, late D.A. Rajpaksha, the father of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajpaksha, extended into today as well. An almsgiving was organised today in remembrance of the late politician in Madamulana of Veerakatiya. Our country regressed due to actions of foreigners and the Sinhalese were unable to protect the country. During such times, great leaders rose up to protect the country, and it's the Rajapakshas who take that accolade in the recent history. In the meantime, another commemoration of late D.A. Rajpaksha was held yesterday in the attendance of the Premier, former Speaker Chamal Rajpaksha and former Minister Basil Rajpaksha. How much trouble did former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajpaksha, who sacrificed so much for the country, had to go through because of these tombstones? None in the Rajpaksha family were discouraged by it. The Premier also joined a Dhamma sermon delivered at the D.A. Rajpaksha College in Madamulana. The sermon was delivered by General Secretary of Ravana Balaya, Venerable Ittakande Saddhatisatera. Minister of Megapolis and Western Development, Dinesh Gunawardena, continues to insist that the government has the majority in Parliament and ministers of the previous government will have to sit in the opposition when the House convenes next. The newly appointed minister made this remark speaking to media after assuming duties at the ministry today. Newly appointed Minister Dinesh Gunawardena assumed duties today as the Minister of Megapolis and Western Development at the ministry in Battaramulla. I will engage in discussions with all heads of local bodies and elected members in the Western Province soon. I also plan on giving back powers of Urban Development Authority which you once had. After assuming duties, the minister responded to questions raised by media. Nowhere in the Constitution does it mention a requirement of 113 members. We have a Speaker who has no clear idea on this. We, however, have more than 113 MPs in the House. There are no issues over where to sit, since the Secretary-General of Parliament has accepted the Gazette notification issued by the President appointing a new Prime Minister. Former ministers have to go to the opposition benches. Everyone will be in their due seats under the leadership of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Meanwhile, parliamentarian Piyasena Gamage, who represents the Gul district, assumed duties as the State Minister of Women and Child Affairs at the ministry in the presence of President Maithripala Sirisena. Later, the State Minister also spoke to media. The President took this decision as we have more than 113. We also have a number of crossovers from the UNP. Only one of us left our camp. I do not like to speak about MP Manusha Nanakkara as he is one of my friends and also represents my district, but I know where he was in the recent past.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the Cabinet of Ministers has approved the proposal by Minister of Ports and Shipping Mahinda Samarasinghe to revise charges relating to services provided by Sri Lanka ports. The approval was given during the Cabinet meeting held on Monday. According to the Minister, charges will be increased for Sri Lanka Ports Authority and Jaya Containers Terminal Private Limited. The exact increase in charges will be decided after discussions with the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka rejects media reports which say that the Monetary Board printed a large sum of money recently to help finance the government's fiscal commitments. Releasing a statement today, the central bank insisted that the article in question remained grossly inaccurate and misleading. It clarifies that usually money printing refers to the expansion of reserve money, which was at 939.8 billion rupees at the end of 2017, while the figure stood at 1,010.5 billion rupees at the end of September 2018. The central bank said that reserve money stood at 1,020.8 billion rupees on the 2nd of November. Therefore, it says the figures clearly show the expansion of reserve money is well within the bank's projections for the year. The CBSL added that the rupee liquidity in the domestic money market has been in deficit since mid-September this year, and it led the central bank to conduct open market operations, providing adequate liquidity to the market and conduct longer-term reserve purchases, auctions and make outright purchases. The statement stresses that those are regular monetary operations with market participants which have no relevance to the government's fiscal position or any particular political event. Now, Asian markets and European markets rose today. However, analysts warn about the economic impact of the gridlock on Capitol Hill after the US midterm elections left the two houses of Congress split between Democrats and Republicans. According to chief international economist at ING, James Knightley, the split Congress means that there's more likely to be gridlock, which will significantly curtail US President Donald Trump's legislative agenda. He points out that the two sides could possibly work together in such areas similar to infrastructure and spending. He said, quote, "For example, President Trump's proposal on additional income tax cuts has received a major blow because of the election result," unquote. In the meantime, head of dynamic markets at AMP Capital Investors in Sydney, Nader Naimi, saw the result as a good outcome for the world economy. Through the day, Hong Kong Hang Seng finished 0.1% higher after swinging through the day, while Shanghai ended 0.7% down and Tokyo shed 0.3%. In early European trade, London rose 0.7%, Paris added 0.6% and Frankfurt 0.5%. Now to bring you a market update, the all-share price index fell 1.24% to 5,987.21 today, its lowest close since October 31st, which is a near 2-month high. The stock market turnover was 1.3 billion rupees today, more than this year's daily average of 817.1 million rupees, while foreigners bought a net 298 million worth of stocks. For a detailed report as to how the market performed this week, we have Hiruni Pereira from First Capital Holdings.
Today, bourse ended in red for the third consecutive day, dragged down by Big Cap, John Keells and Commercial Bank, and recording the lowest dip since March 2016. SBI witnessed a downward trend during the day, reaching an intraday low of 5,978 before closing the day at 5,987, losing 75 points. Turnover crossed LKR 1 million mark, while 43% was derived from NDB. On the crossings board, 5 crossings of NDB took place at 100, while 3 crossings of John Keells recorded at 145.
Now, the Sri Lankan rupee ended weaker today due to outflows from government securities, ending at 174 rupees and 80 cents to 175 rupees and 10 cents per dollar, compared with the previous close of 174 rupees and 45 cents to 60 cents. The currency has weakened 3.7% in October after a 4.7% drop in September against the dollar. It has dropped 13.8% so far this year. Now let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies around the world. Now, circling back to one of our top stories, the weather. Now, it is inclement weather prevailing all over the country, and the Department of Meteorology today issued a special weather advisory regarding another low-pressure zone which is likely to be developed over the Andaman Sea and adjoining southeast Bay of Bengal during the next 48 hours. The Met Department instructs the naval and fishing communities to be vigilant over the development of this new system, and it is expected to intensify further while moving towards the northwestern part of the island. Meanwhile, the prevailing low-pressure zone in the southwest Bay of Bengal has been bringing heavy showers and thunder showers over the past 24 hours. This has prompted the National Building Research Organisation to issue landslide early warnings to the districts of Ratnapura, Nuwara and Matali. The prevailing low-pressure zone has been bringing heavy showers and thunder showers across all districts of the country, and the system is currently located in the vicinity of Sri Lanka over Cape Comorin. The Department of Meteorology says that it will bring more heavy showers above 100 millimeters to the northern, eastern, north central, central and northwestern provinces during the next 24 hours. The National Building Research Organisation meanwhile issued landslide early warnings to Hanguranketha and Walapane divisional secretariats today. Landslide early warnings have been issued for Yatavatta, Ukuwela, Rattota and Amanga Korle divisional secretariats and surrounding areas as well. Following heavy rains, many of the major reservoirs in the country have reached spill level. All 6 spill gates of the Natchadua reservoir in North Central Province have been opened. As a result, spill waters of the Malwattua River have inundated low-lying areas from areas near the railway station to the sacred city of Anuradhapura. 4 emergency spill gates of the Nuwara tank in Anuradhapura have been opened by 3 feet, while 2 of the Mahakanadarawa tank in Mihintale have also been opened by 2 feet. Meanwhile, 2 emergency spill gates of the lake have been opened by 3 feet. 8 spill gates of the Rajangane reservoir have also been opened, while 2 in Angamu reservoir have been opened by 2 feet. Irrigation engineers have decided to increase the flow of spill water of the Parakrama Samudra reservoir today. In the meantime, 10 paddy farmers in Ruanpiti area of Valikanda who were attempting to protect their crops from wild elephants were caught in floodwaters. They were later rescued by an operation launched by the army. In the meantime, 3 locations of Alla-Vallavaya main road are at risk of ground subsidence, and as a result, the police officials attached to Alla police station took action to limit the traffic to 1 lane. In the meantime, many areas in the hills are also experiencing heavy misty conditions, and police advise drivers to be vigilant.
In Batticaloa district, more than 270 millimeters been observed yesterday. Due to that rain condition since yesterday in Batticaloa district, there are 4 safe locations being established and 1,706 people still being temporarily accommodated, and relief missions are carried out. So military and the police stand by for upcoming all the disaster management rescue missions, and the National Building and Research Organization, they have issued a warning of the possibility of landslide if rain continues in next 24 hours time in Ratnapura district. So all the people are vigilant with the signs of the landslides. 13 people been evacuated in Kandy district yesterday due to heavy rain conditions. Parakram Samudra, Jadruwaya, Tabbo, Rajangania, Victoria, Nachaduva, Ulhitiya, Rantambe, Mahakantarawa and Udawalawa reserve has been reported as a spill gate opening. All the people who are downstream has to be very vigilant with the rising water levels. So 117 call center number is completely open right now.
The Department of Meteorology also warns that the deep sea areas extending from Kankasanthura to Galle via Putlam will experience rough seas with strong winds of up to 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. Now then, the Democrats have taken control of the U.S. House of Representatives in the midterm elections, dealing a blow to U.S. President Donald Trump. A Democratic majority in the lower chamber for the first time in 8 years will restrict his ability to steer his programs through Congress. But Trump's Republicans are set to strengthen their grip on the Senate. Yesterday's vote was seen as a referendum on a polarizing president, even though he is not up for re-election until 2020. The Democrats have clawed their way back to a measure of power in the U.S. federal government, ending an era of unified rule for Donald Trump and the Republicans. The election confirms a historical trend for a party that is not in the White House to make gains in the midterms. For the duration of his presidency, Trump has benefited from a friendly Congress, generally supportive of his words and deeds, accommodating of his policy priorities and differential when it comes to oversight. In 2 months, when the new Democratic-controlled House arrives in Washington, all that will change. The House of Representatives, which reliably churned out hardline immigration legislation, Obamacare repeal and steep cuts to social programs under the Republican rule, even though many of the bills died in the Senate, will now start offering up progressive priorities. First on the list, according to the likely Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, is a package of government ethics and election reform measures.
Today is more than about Democrats and Republicans. It's about restoring the Constitution's checks and balances to the Trump administration. It's about stopping the GOP and Mitch McConnell's assaults on Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, and the health care of 130 million Americans living with pre-existing medical conditions. It's about ending wealthy special interest free reign over Washington. But more than anything, it's about what a new Democratic majority will mean in the lives of hardworking Americans. We will have accountability, and we will strive for bipartisanship with fairness on all sides. We will have a responsibility to find our common ground where we can, stand our ground where we can't, but we must try.
In the meantime, women won big in the U.S. midterm elections, with U.S. media predicting more than 100 women winning election or re-election in races across the country. Voters in Minnesota and Michigan elected the first 2 Muslim women to serve in the U.S. Congress, a former refugee who fled Somalia's civil war, and a Detroit-born Palestinian American. Democrats Sharice Davids, a lesbian mixed martial arts fighter, and Deb Haaland became the first Native American women elected to Congress.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
And that's it from all of us here at First to 9. And before we go, we'd like to take you to the ancient city of Kataragama. Being a pilgrimage town sacred to Buddhists as well as Hindus, Kataragama is located in the Monragala district of the Uva province. Today it is a fast developing township surrounded with natural beauty in the southeastern region of the island. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.